In this video, we're going to focus on how we can highlight our line chart. As you can see, once I move from one line to another, the color changes and it will highlight the specific one. And while doing that, you can see here even the legend will align with that. So let's start to look how to highlight specific lines on Hover in chartJs. First of all, you can see here we have the border template, and this border template you can find here on chartjs3.com getting started. This link you can find as well in the description box. Once you're on here, copy this chunk of code and then you have everything. Next, if you want to support my channel, you can find here my Patreon, where you get access to many of my source codes of topics I covered on many different videos. Alright, so what we're going to do here is we have this here now. What I want to do is first, I want to add up multiple data sets. So I want to have not one, I want to have at least two more, or a total of three. So we're going to add up two more items. Next, what I will do is I will just rename them. This will be green. There we are. And then this one will be blue. And we have here red. So once we did that, the next thing I want to remove is all the excess colors. So we only have one color to focus on. And I'll just keep it as an array. And if you don't want it as an array, that's fine. But I would say keep it as an array. It's probably better because I will have code based on that. So the next one is I want to get here the blue color. So I'm going to remove everything except the blue. The blue is the second one. There we are. And then finally for the green one, that is the fourth value. So I'm going to remove this here. And I'm going to remove all of these here. And the same story here and there. Alright. So we have this now. Make sure that it's capitalized, save, refresh. Now we have these here. I'm going to convert this into a line chart. Save, refresh. Right now you can see they're drawing on top of each other. So what I want to do is I want to have here a stacked value. So for the Y scale, we're going to say stacked equals true. And by doing that, you can see now it will show one by one. What I want to do next is, as you can see here right now, if I hover specifically on the data point, it will show. But what I want is I want an instant hover effect the moment I am here, even on the white space. But chartJs will be so intelligent that it will understand that we're nearby a specific value and that is being considered. So to do this, I need to adjust what we call the interactions. So I'm going to say interaction. And within the interaction, I'm going to say comma here, and then we put in this. I'm going to say the mode will be based on nearest. So we have the nearest, that is right now as well the case, but our intersect, meaning when we hit the point, we have to touch truly the point, is set on true. So I want to make sure that the touching is not necessary anymore. As long as we are nearby, that will be accepted. So I'm going to say intersect will be false. Save this, refresh, and you can see here now it will automatically figure out where we are located, and based on that, it will just draw the curve for the tooltip. So this works, and this is very important for us. So from now on, we can probably move on, and maybe if you look at these legends, maybe you don't like that. It doesn't look nice. So what I'm going to do is, after the scales, I'm going to say comma here, I'm going to say plugins, and let's adjust the legend. We're going to say legend, and what we want to adjust here is the lines of it. Right now they are rectangles, but they should be lines. So I'm going to say here for the lines, we're going to say here legend, and then we're going to say here label, or labels, should be with an S, it's plural. Then we're going to say use point style, and we're going to set this on true. By default, this is set on false. So if I save this right now, you will see you get a default circle shape. I don't want that. So I'm going to say here, point style. I'm going to define the point style I want to use, which is the line point style. Save that, refresh, there we are. Next, this line is so narrow, I want to make it thicker. So I'm going to say here border width, 3 pixels. If I save this, refresh, you can see here right now, absolutely phenomenal. Everything looks fine and everything is done. Alright, to continue on, we're going to work by creating a custom plugin. So we have here the options. So don't get confused with this plugin here. It's not here, it's just one here down. After the options, we're going to say plugins, bracket, because you can have multiple plugins, and we're going to create our own custom plugin. And this we can say our highlight line plugin. So I'm going to copy this highlight line. Then I'm going to say here, I'm going to / highlight line plugin block constant highlight line equals the ID, and the ID will be the highlight line. And then we're going to say here 2 parts. First of all, we want to draw something before the data sets, and secondly, we want to make sure we have the effect. So there's 2 parts. So I'm going to say here before data sets draw, because we don't want the data sets to be drawn first. We want this to be implemented, so we have the colors applied to them. So we say chart, arcs, and plugins. For now, I will leave. For now, I will leave this blank. Sorry, it just slightly shifted a bit, because we have the event that we want to track first. So we're going to say here after the event, there's another one. After the event, we want to push it back into the before drawing. So after the event, we have the chart and arcs. And then what we're going to do here is basically this. What I want to do is, first of all, I need to know, are we within the chart area here? That's number 1. And the reason why is the moment we are in the chart area, the tooltip will trigger. As you can see here, if I'm away from it, it will not trigger. So this is very important information for us later on. So let's start to check here. How do we do this? Well, what we're going to say here is if, or let me just show you how you get this information. So I'm going to say console log, arcs, save this, refresh, open up developer tab, and then if I hover, you can see what is happening. And I'm going to open up here. You can see here we have changed true, whatever there is. You can see here the in chart area equals true. So are we in the chart area? True. If we're not, it will be set to false. This is a very important part of information. And then what if we have more? If you open up here, we get here a lot of additional information. Although I'm not sure if we will be needing all of this. We'll definitely need this in chart area as true. And the change here, this one is set already in true, but I will force it on true because this will allow us to draw or redraw the chart with the new data. Later on, this will be important. So I'm going to say first here, how do we get this? In chart area, true. Let's check this. You can see true. Right here, it's false, true, false. Alright. So this means we are now able to see if we are within the chart area. So I'm going to grab this. Then I'm going to say here, if statement, if this equals strict true, in that case what I want to do is I want to build a function with a border for the borders basically, or changing the colors of the borders. What I forgot to do here, because what will happen later on, I will update these values and they will be overwritten, or we will overwrite those values. So I need a separate constant for this, which is an array with the border color. So I'm going to say border color, and this is the only thing I could not figure out as a better solution, but this is the best I've got. So I'm going to grab this here. This is the green one, that's number 3. So we have there we are. Next one, I want to grab here the border color of the number 2, which is the blue one, and finally the border color of number 1, which is the red one. So I'm going to save this, refresh. Of course, nothing happens yet, but later on, this will be useful for us. So what I'm going to say here is the following. I'm going to say here we're going to create a function, and this function is basically the following. I'm going to say a set border color because we want to set a new border color, which is it's either this color, or if you're hovering on top of that, and if we're not hovering, this must be gray. And the same goes for all of these lines here. So this is the complete logic. So what we're going to say, is it active? Yes or no? And we're going to grab the index number, and we can say here the border color. So this is the function, and this function should return basically a few things. If it is not active, well, we can say here return active, and then the border color. And if not, so if it's active, so if it is active, this is true, and it's active, we're going to get the border color, that is the border color that we have indicated here, that will be later on one of these. And if it's false, in that case, we're going to force it into a gray color. So this is the function, but of course this function now needs to be applied directly. So how are we going to apply this function? Well, we're going to look here, and what we're going to say here, if what we'll be needing is basically the dataset color. We want to grab here the dataset and from the data to the datasets and the colors. So we'll check this out. Let's see, hold on, let me double check this. Alright, sorry, I was slightly confused. I don't want to grab that color, I want to change that color. And what are we changing basically is the data in here. So we're going to just say data to datasets, and whatever the border color is, it will be changed based on this here, and that's the active here that we're going to select. So what we're going to say here, data.data sets index 0 dot border color index 0. Okay, this is the reason why I indicated earlier having an array is useful. If you don't have an array for the border color, that is fine. In that case, you would be doing it like this. Then in that case, you don't have here an array as well. But I'm just going to assume you follow along with me. In that case, I'll just do it like that. I hope you do the same here as well, or else you have to make sure you make this change here. So then what I want to do here, this one will be based on the function that we're going to have here. So how do we get this color then is the following. We're going to put in the basically the arguments of these parameters here. Active will be what we have to check here, is the item active. And I realized I didn't even discuss the active. So this will be probably a useful item to talk about. So how do I know if something is active? Well, there's a very useful functionality for this. And all we're going to do is we're going to check if it is active in one of these. So what I'm going to say here, console log, I'll use here the chart.get. And this is a advanced chartJS functionality built in. Get data set meta, and this is index 0. And I'm going to say here dot data index 0, for example, and then dot active. So what this shows us is if the item is active. You can see right now it's false, but the red one should be true because this is the first data set of the first and the first data point. So this is basically how we can check if something is active. But all what I want to do is eventually I want to check if each of these is active. So what I'm going to do here, the following, we have this one here. I'm going to grab this, cut this out, put it in this function here. That is our active here. Active. Then we're going to get the index, and the index is index 0 here. Maybe we could even simplify this, I guess, but I'll leave it for now. This took me a while to make. And then we're going to grab here the border color. And the border color will be this one here. So if it is active, it should give us a color. So once we did this, we have to do all of them as well. If I save this, let's see if something happens. Alright, you can see here, it gives slightly an error, but it converts something here. It does something. It makes something gray. Of course, this is not fully functional yet, but we're getting close to it. So I'm going to copy all of this. You can see here 103 set border is not a function. Set border color is not a function. Am I correct? Let's see here. What are we missing? Alright, sorry, my bad. So the reason why something is going wrong here, of course, is I'm outside of the if statement. So we need to make sure that we are within the if statement, or else it will, of course, not recognize that functionality. So now we have that one. As you can see here, it just turns out only gray, but that's fine. Because right now, it will only look if this one is active here. Dataset border color. It will only look at if data point number 0 or index 0 of the dataset 0 is active. Later on, we're going to check if any one of those are active. So don't worry about that. We're going to just copy this. And I'm just going to force this all slightly hard-coded. So there's not for me right now. I don't have a proper solution for that. So bear with me on that one. I'm going to change this. This should be 0. This is also 0 because this is the border color. I just want to work with the data set. So this one is that, this should be 1. Then we have this is all fine. Then we change this into 1. This is 2. And this one will be, of course, the green color, which is number 2. And this is the blue color, that's number 1. Alright, so once we have this, we have here a lot of space here. Let's put that all together. Then we're going to say args.changed equals true. We want to make sure that this is true, because by doing this, it will then push whatever we have here all above here and redraw the item. Alright, so now we have this here, and you can see something is working, but not really everything. So don't worry, although this one here tends to go back once we are moving away. So it shows a little bit, but it's not really the right thing. So now what I want to do here is, let's see, what we need here is probably the chart itself, or more an object destructuring of data will be equal to chart. So that's number 1, because we'll be using the chart, and probably we'll be using the data as well. The next thing what I want to do is to get all the data sets, data points. We need all of these all together in one bracket, and for that we have a built-in chartJS functionality, which is called basically the chart.get sorted visible data set metas with an S, like that. So if I save this, refresh, open up developer tab, you can see here once I hover, it does stuff and it gives us all the information that I need. And what do I truly need? I need eventually the data point values, or not even that. I need to know from every data point, are we active, yes or no. So for this, now we have all of them, we can then start to look. Because here we only get one single item, but this information will be useful later on. So then what I'm going to do here is we're going to say here, well, let's give this a constant. We'll be needing this. I'm going to say here the data set meta array, which is all the data sets that we have. I'm going to put that in here, data set metas, like that. Then what I'm going to say here, we need to use a for loop. So I'm going to say a for loop, and then we say I, or let I equals 0. And the reason why I need a for loop is I'm going to loop through every item until I find if any of these values is considered active. If it is active, what I want to do is I want to make sure or if any of these values in the array is active, I want to break the for loop. I need to stop the code, because or else they will find the next one that's inactive, and then it will make everything gray. What I want to do is once one value of the data point is found that is active, convert the entire line to green or blue or red. That's basically what we're doing. That's the whole logic behind it. So I'm going to say here, we're going to loop through the I as long as how many data points we have. Well, we can say here, I guess we could even do this one here, data meta array. And then I'm going to say here, well, is that really correct? Yeah, we can say here the length, because this should give us the right amount of length. Let's say I++, and just to be sure, console log, am I correct in my statement? I save this, refresh, open up, there you are. Get number 3, because there are 3 data sets right now active. So this is nice. So we have this here. Then what we can do in here, we can start to loop through the items. So I'm going to say here constant, and we say here data set meta, and this will be basically the data set meta array, because here we have the full item here, but then I'm going to say here with the I for the index. Once we have this here, we're going to make an if statement, and we're going to check in this array for index number 0, which is data set number 0, is any of these active. So I'm going to say here, let's say here, oh, I guess I'm getting ahead of myself. You can say a constant index, that will be the dataset meta dot index, which is just basically just borrowing from this item here. Just going to get it here just to be sure, and I'm going to say if. And well, I think this should have a console log as well. And in this console log, I'm going to say here, first of all, what is my dataset meta? I'm going to grab this, and then in here, I'm going to say .data. And if I save this, refresh, oh, dataset meta is not a function. Let me double check what's going on here. Dataset meta number 95. Dataset meta, dataset meta array with the index. Oh, sorry, this is of course not a function. It's index number. Save that, refresh, there we are. As you can see here, we're getting the points. We're getting the points specifically for a certain item. And I think you can see here that's active, it's false. What you can see here, do we see here the exact, we see the exact coordinates of each item here. I'm not sure if we can see the value to indicate here. What is the value? We get the Excel value for that, or sorry, not the Excel, the X and Y coordinates. Point radius. You can see here all kind of stuff except for the data point. That doesn't matter. But all what I need is basically here this. Are we active on true, yes or no? If any of these are active, true, then it should work. So let's start to do this one, because this is becoming really tough for me as well. So we say sum, which is a functionality, and this functionality allows us to check if any of the data points that we have would be basically active, yes or no. So we're going to say here sum, and then we're going to put in here for every data point function error expression, and then if that is the case, we're going to say data point dot active. As you can see here, we have 1 time true and 2 times false. This is important because it will indicate where we are now, and it will know exactly which line is visible. Alright, so this is one of our functionalities. So we're going to create now an if statement here, and this if statement will be if this here, I'm going to grab this. I guess we can just grab this completely, put in here. So if active, and we can find any data point. Let's see here like that, and we can find any data point if it's active. In that case, we have to make sure that there is a double parentheses. In that case, what I want to do here is we're going to give the data.datasets index, whatever the index is, the color that we assign to it. Alright, and the index, we get this from the dataset meta.index, so it will find the item itself. We'll find the value of which one is true. So we're going to say here dot border color, and this will be our index 0 because it's an array in our case, and this index 0 will be border color will be based on border color dot index, and this one here will eventually grab one of these colors here above, so we'll understand this. So once we did this, what I want to do here then is, well, let's save this first. And you can see here, well, it does something, but of course it keeps on looping here. So what I want to do here, chart.update, to update the chart with this and break the sequence of this for loop. Alright, as you can see here, this took a while, but we're getting the colors now working. However, if I move away, what happens? We're missing items. You can see here, even this works nicely. So we're almost done here. I'm going to change the final items. So this was a really tricky one for me, but we're done now. The final thing here, what I want to do is when we are outside of the chart area, in that case, I want to change the color, and I guess we can make a function out of it and maybe even put it in here if we say if not in the chart area, but I will just leave that. That was a real tricky one for me. So I'm going to build a very simple functionality. I'm going to say my chart dot canvas, and why my chart? I'm getting the chart object, and I'm going to say canvas dot add event listener. And what I want to do here is very simple. I'm going to say if I mouse out, then I want to trigger this event, record this event, and trigger a function. So what I'm going to say here, reset color, and then one of my parameters will be, or one of my arguments will be my chart, and the other one will be the event itself, which is the mouse out. We can do even mouse out here. Or sorry, we have to do the E, but the E is basically the event, will be the mouse out. So then we're going to say a function, and in this function we're going to say here reset colors. I'm going to grab this. I'm going to say here this will be now the chart argument, or sorry, parameter. This is the parameter. This is the argument. The argument is the exact value. The parameter is the reference value. So this one here, we can just name this as mouse out. Then what I want to do here is I want to reset it. So how do we reset it? Well, we have here the chart, which is the reference of my chart. And then we're just going to, very simple, we go from chart to my chart to config. From config we go to data, and that is basically here at the very top. Just going in the object, datasets, and then we say here border color, whatever the border color is. So this, and then we're going to say it, or we can just say data immediately, config chart, config.data, datasets index 0 dot border color index 0 will be equal to border color array index 0. This could be probably refactored a bit more. I'll just leave it for now. This is just the easiest part to refactor, so I will accept this minor restriction or limitation, but you can probably do this yourself. Then what I want to do is I want to make sure I do an update on the chart. Save this. Refresh. There we are. Move away. There we are. I'm sure that there is just still some items that we can do, because I know that if you move very quickly, here you can see here sometimes it will like that. There's probably a better solution with the in chart area true or false. Probably I have to do something like that, but I will leave it for now, and maybe I will make a separate video for that. However, as you can see here, this starts to work quite nice, and everything here starts to align nicely with it. And that's it.